the Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. Chapter 37. Grasses, Part 6. Surrounded by an ambience of frost and ice, Lan Wangji stood in front of Wei Wuxian. Zhu Yang fended the attack by casting out Shuanghua. The two swords collided, then flew back to their respective owners. Wei Wuxian commented, "Isn't this called to come in time is better than to come early?" Lan Wangji, yes. As their exchange finished, they turned back to fighting with Zhu Yang. A few moments ago, Wei Wuxian was chased around by Zhu Yang, but now, Zhu Yang was driven around by Lan Wangji. In reaction to the adverse situation, with a roll of his eyes and a grin on his face, he tossed Shuanghua to his left hand. His right hand shifted inside his sleeve. Wei Wuxian was concerned that he might hurl poisonous powder or hidden knives from the Kai and Kun sleeves. However, he simply pulled out another sword, and seamlessly adjusted to a double sword style of attack. The glare of the sword that he pulled from his sleeve was grim and dark. As it was wielded, it almost seemed to emit a black aura, creating a stark contrast with Shuanghua's silver radiance. Using both swords equally well, Zhu Yang's hands kept in perfect time with each other. He gained the upper hand at once. Lan Wangji questioned, "Jiang Zai?" Zhu Yang. Han Guangjun, you know of this sword? What an honor. Jiang Zai was Zhu Yang's own sword. As its name and as its owner, it was a foreboding sword that brought with it bloodshed. Wei Wuxian interrupted, "The name matches you perfectly." Lan Wangji, step back. You are not needed here. Thus, Wei Wuxian humbly listened to the suggestion and stepped back. When he got to the door, he looked outside. Expressionless, Wen Ning was gripping Song Lan by the neck. He lifted him into the air and slammed him onto the wall, creating a large man-shaped dent. Similarly expressionless, Song Lan grabbed Wen Ning's wrists. With a backflip, he threw him onto the ground. Both corpses fought expressionlessly, ceaselessly smashing and banging. Since neither of them felt pain or feared injury, unless they were cut into pieces, they would continue to fight even if they lost a limb or two. Wei Wuxian muttered under his breath, "I don't think I'm needed here, either." Suddenly, he saw that Lan Jingyi, inside a dimly lit shop, was frantically waving to him. He beamed, "Aha! I'll definitely be needed there." Just as he left, Baikon's sword glare brightened tenfold. With a brief slip of the hand, Shuanghua flew out of Zhu Yang's grip. Lan Wangji conveniently caught the sword. Seeing that Shuanghua was in someone else's hands, Zhu Yang had Jiang Zai slash directly at the left arm that Lan Wangji used to grab the sword. As the attack was dodged, a chilling rage flashed within Zhu Yang's eyes. He demanded coldly, "Give me the sword back." Lan Wangji, you do not deserve this sword. Zhu Yang made a bitter sound of laughter. On the other hand, Wei Wuxian walked over to the disciples. Surrounded by the boys, he inquired, "Everyone all right?" "Yes. We all listened to you and held our breaths." Wei Wuxian, "Good. If anyone doesn't listen to me, I'll feed him Kamji again." The few boys who had encountered the taste pretended as if they were vomiting. Suddenly, the sounds of footsteps came from all around them. Shadows had already begun to emerge from the end of the street. Lan Wangji heard the sound as well. With a wave of his sleeve, he took out his Gukun, Wangjai. The body of the Gukun was horizontally slammed onto the table. Lan Wangji tossed Baikon to his left hand and continued to fight with Zhu Yang, his attacks remaining strong. At the same time, without even turning his head, he raised his right hand and strummed across the strings. The chord was loud and clear. It resonated all the way to the end of the street. What came back was the strange yet familiar noises of the corpses' heads bursting. Lan Wangji continued to fight Zhu Yang with one hand and play the Gukun with the other. He'd glance across the scene as if it was only a simple matter, then nonchalantly curve his fingers to strum again. Working with both of his hands, he somehow still seemed calm and unhurried. Jinling blurted out in spite of himself, "He's so good." He had seen Zhongqing and Jin Guangyao go on night hunts and kill beasts, which made him think that his two uncles were the two most powerful cultivators in the entire world. Toward Lan Wangji, though, He had always felt more fear than respect, especially toward his technique of silencing others and his cold temper. However, at the present moment, he couldn't help but admire Lan Wangji's abilities. Lan Jingyi approved, well, obviously. Of course Han Guangjun is good. He just never likes to show it off. He is very low-key, right? The right? Was directed at Wei Wuxian, who replied in confusion, are you asking me? Why are you asking me? Lan Jingyi was on the verge of being angered, so you think that Han Guangjun is not good? Wei Wuxian touched his chin, He's good. Of course. He's really good. He's the best. As he talked, he couldn't help but break into a smile. The dangerously terrifying night was finally about to pass, dawn was almost here. However, this wasn't the best of news. If daylight came, the fog would also become thicker. Then, they'd again be unable to do a thing. If there were only Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji, it wouldn't be as difficult. But with so many living humans around, if they end up surrounded by a large group of walking corpses, escape would be close to impossible. As Wei Wuxian urgently tried to think of a solution, the crisp tip-taps of the bamboo pole sounded once more. The ghost of the blind-eyed, tongueless girl came again. Without any hesitation, Wei Wuxian ordered, go. Lan Jingyi, where to? Wei Wuxian, follow the sounds of the bamboo pole. Jinling was somewhat surprised, you want us to follow a ghost? Who knows where she'll take us to? Wei Wuxian, that's precisely what you're going to do. The sound has been following you guys ever since you came, correct? You were trying to go into the city, but she was leading you toward the city gates, where you ran into us. She was chasing you out, she was trying to save you. The strange, sporadic sounds of the bamboo pole were a technique that she used to scare people who entered the city. The nether brawler's head that Wei Wuxian stepped on was possibly also placed there by her to startle and alert them. Wei Wuxian continued, and, last night, she clearly wanted to tell us something really important, but couldn't explain it. However, she disappeared as soon as Zhu Yang came. She was most likely trying to avoid Zhu Yang. Anyways, she definitely isn't on the same side as him. Zhu Yang? Why is Zhu Yang here as well? Wasn't it Shou Shangqian and Song Lan? I'll explain that later. Anyways, the one fighting with Han Guangjun inside isn't Shou Shangqian, but Zhu Yang, who pretended to be him. The bamboo pole's noises continued, as if the girl was waiting or urging them. If they followed her, they could fall into a trap. If they didn't follow her, they'd be surrounded by corpses who release corpse poisoning powder. It wouldn't be much safer. The boys decisively chose to follow the knocking sounds along with Wei Wuxian. Sure enough, as they moved, the sounds also moved. At times, they could see a small, vague shadow amid the thin fog in the distance, but sometimes there was nothing at all. After running for a while, Lan Jingyi spoke up, so we are just going to run off like this? Wei Wuxian turned around and shouted, Han Guangjun, it's up to you now. We're gonna go ahead. The strings of the cocoon vibrated, as if someone was saying Iminen. Wei Wuxian cracked up with a PFFT. Lan Jingyi hesitated, that was it? You are not going to say anything else? Wei Wuxian, what else do you want me to do? What else should I say? Lan Jingyi, why did you two not say I'm worried about you? I'm staying, go, no. I'm not going. If I'm going, you're going with me? Is it not a must? Wei Wuxian was left open-mouthed, who taught you this? Who told you that this sort of conversation must happen? It'd sound fine out of my mouth, but can you even imagine your Han Guangjun say such things? The Lancex juniors chorused, no. Wei Wuxian, right? It's a waste of time. I believe that someone as reliable as Han Guangjun will definitely be able to deal with it. I can just focus on my own things and either wait for him to find me or go find him myself. They followed the bamboo pole's noises for less than 15 minutes. After a few twists and turns, in front of them, the noises abruptly came to a halt. Wei Wuxian extended his arm, stopping the boys behind him, and walked a few steps forward. A house stood alone in the fog that grew thicker and thicker. Squeak! Somebody pushed open the door to the house, which silently awaited the entrance of the strangers. Wei Wuxian felt that something must be inside. It wouldn't be anything dangerous or that could kill them, but something that would tell him things and show them the answers. He turned to the disciples, "We've already come this far. Let's go in." He raised his foot and stepped into the house. Adjusting to the dark, he cautioned without looking back, "Watch for the threshold. Don't trip." As he had expected, one of the boys almost tripped over the tall threshold. He complained, "Why is the threshold so high? It is not a temple or anything like that." Wei Wuxian, "It's not a temple, but it's somewhere that also needs a high threshold." Hustling about, they lit up around a dozen fire talismans. The orange light of the wavering flames illuminated the entire house. Straws were scattered on the ground, serving as a carpet. In the frontmost area, there was an altar and a few fallen stools of different heights. A small, unlit room was on the right side. Other than these, there were also 7 or 8 black, wooden coffins. Jinling, this is the so-called coffin home? Where dead people are temporarily put. Wei Wuxian, that's right. Corpses that aren't claimed by anyone, that would make a house ominous, or that are waiting to be buried are often put into coffin homes. It could be described as a courier station for dead people. The smaller room on the side was probably where the person who guarded the coffin home rests. Lan Sizui asked, "Senior Mo, why is the threshold to the coffin home so high?" Wei Wuxian, "In case any corpses transform." Lan Jingyi puzzled, "Would making a high threshold be able to prevent corpse transformation?" Wei Wuxian, "It can't prevent corpse transformation, but it can sometimes prevent low-level corpses that have already transformed from going outside." He went to stand in front of the threshold, say, for example, "I'm dead and I just transformed." The boys nodded. He continued, "Since I just transformed, my limbs are really stiff, right? And I can't perform certain actions?" Jinling, "That goes without saying. You can't even walk. You can't step forward, so you can only jump." At this point, he immediately understood. Wei Wuxian affirmed, "Correct. I can only jump." With both of his feet together, he tried to jump outside. However, since the threshold was too high, he failed every attempt. Seeing how his toes bumped into the threshold, all of the disciples found the scene funny. They started laughing as they imagined a corpse who had just transformed desperately try to jump outside like this, but get blocked by the high threshold every time. Wei Wuxian spoke again, "Did you see now? Don't laugh. This is the intelligence of common folk. Although it's lame and seems too simple, it's indeed effective against low-level corpses. If a corpse who has transformed is tripped by the threshold, after they fall on the ground, with their stiff body, they won't be able to get back up in a short time. When they're finally able to get up, either the sun will rise soon afterwards and the rooster will call, or the person guarding the coffin home will have discovered them." It's actually quite impressive how ordinary people who didn't cultivate could think of such a solution. Although Ginling had laughed at the scene as well, now that he heard the explanation, he stifled his laughter at once. "Why did she bring us to a coffin home? Don't tell me that it was because we won't be surrounded by walking corpses if we're here. Where did she go herself?" Wei Wuxian, "It's likely that we really won't be. We've been standing still for so long already. Has anyone heard any walking corpses?" Just as he finished speaking, the ghost of the young girl appeared on top of a coffin. Due to Wei Wuxian's persuasion, all of them had already seen what the girl looked like. They had even seen how she looked with bleeding eyes and a mouth without a tongue. So, now that they saw her again, nobody felt scared or uneasy. It could be seen that, precisely as what Wei Wuxian had said, one would become braver and face situations with better composure after being frightened a couple of times. The girl didn't have physical form, only a spiritual body surrounded by a soft, dim aura. Both her figure and her face were small. After some grooming, she'd become just the charming girl next door. However, From how she sat with her legs apart, she didn't look delicate at all. The bamboo pole that she used as a white cane leaned on the coffin. Her two legs hung down, anxiously swinging to and fro. As she sat on the coffin, she used her hand to tap on the lid. She then hopped down and circled around the coffin a few times, making hand gestures at them. This time, the gesture was rather easy to understand. It was the action of opening something. Jinling guessed, she wants us to open this coffin for her? Lan Sisui suggested, would it be that her body is inside of here? She may want us bury her and bring her peace. This was the most logical inference, since one of the most common reasons why plenty of ghosts haunted the earth was that their corpses weren't buried. Wei Wuxian stood on one side of the coffin, while a few boys stood on the other, intending to help him open it. He reassured them, you don't have to help me. Stand further back. What if it's not a corpse and spurts out some more corpse poisoning powder at you? He opened the coffin alone and laid the lid onto the ground. Looking down, he saw a corpse. However, it wasn't the corpse of the girl, but somebody else instead. It was a young man. He had been put into a peaceful position with his hands folding crisscrossed together, beneath of which rested a horsetail whisk. On his body was a cultivational robe as white as snow. The silhouette of the lower half of his face, along with a pale countenance and soft-colored lips, was handsome and refined. The upper half of his face, though, was enfolded in layers and layers of bandages that totaled to a width of 4 fingers. Under the bandages, nothing protruded from where his eyes should have been. The bandages sunk in instead. There weren't eyes, only 2 empty hollows. Having heard them open the coffin, the girl stumbled over. She stuck her hands into the coffin and, after some searching around, she finally felt the corpse's face. Stomping her feet, tears of blood trickled down from her blind eyes again. Everyone understood, without the need of any words or gestures. Placed all alone inside of a coffin home that stood all alone, this corpse was the real Zhou Shangchen. Ghost tears were incapable of dripping down. After the girl cried for a while, she suddenly stood up and thought at them through her clenched teeth. Appearing both angered and irritated, it was as though she really wanted to express her thoughts. Lan Sisui asked, should I play inquiry again? Wei Wuxian, there's no need. It's possible for us to ask the wrong questions, instead of the questions that she wants us to ask. And, I think that her reply will be quite complex, quite difficult to interpret. Although he didn't say you might not be able to do it, Lan Sisui still felt rather ashamed. He silently promised to himself, after I get back, I will study inquiry with greater diligence. I will have to be as fluent, as quick, and as accurate as Han Guangjun. Lan Zhengyi asked, then what should we do? Wei Wuxian, how about empathy? All of the major sects specialized in various methods of gaining information and searching for material on ghosts. Empathy was the one that Wei Wuxian was the best at. His method wasn't as profound as those of the other sects. Everyone could use it. It was simply to ask the ghost to possess his own body. Using his own body as medium, he could invade the spirit's soul and memory, hear what they heard, see what they saw, feel what they felt. If the spirit's emotions were abnormally strong, then he'd be affected by their sorrow, their rage, their ecstasy. Thus, it was called empathy. One could say that this was the most straightforward, most convenient, and most effective method. Of course, it was even more so the most dangerous method. Everyone feared and avoided chances for ghosts to possess their body. On another level, empathy, though, was playing with fire. The slightest mistake happened, and it would backfire. If the ghost went back on their word and used the opportunity to counterattack, even the best result would be the seizure of the empathizer's body. Jinling protested, that's too dangerous. Using such a dark technique without someone. Wei Wuxian broke him off, okay. We're running out of time. Stand up properly. Quick. We still have to go back and find Han Guangjun after we're finished. Jinling, you'll be the supervisor. A supervisor was an indispensable part of the empathy ritual. In case the empathizer lost themselves in the ghost's emotions, They needed to settle on a code with the supervisor. It was best if the code was a sentence or a voice that the empathizer was familiar with. The supervisor must preside over the scene at all times. If they saw that the situation had changed, they'd need to act at once and pull the empathizer out of the trance. Jinling pointed to himself. Me? You want a young master? You want me to supervise you while you do something like this? Lan Sizui, if young Master Jin does not want to do it, I can do it as well. Wei Wuxian, Jinling, did you bring the Zhongsek's silver bell? The silver bell was a signature accessory of the Yunzhong sect. When Jinling was young, he was brought up by two sects. He lived at the Lanling Jin sect's Jinlin Tower half the time, and the Yunzhong sect's Lotus Pier the other half, so he should be carrying belongings from both sects. As Wei Wuxian had expected, with a complicated expression on his face, he pulled out a small, simplistic bell. The Zhong sect's clan motif, the nine-petaled lotus, was carved onto the silver body of the bell. Wei Wuxian stared at the bell for a few moments. Sensing that he looked a bit off, Jinling asked, "What?" Wei Wuxian replied, "Nothing." He passed the bell to Lan Sizui. The silver bell of the Zhong sect can steady one's focus and calm one's mind. Use this as the code. Jinling grabbed the bell back. "Actually, I'll do it." Lan Jingyi grumbled, "You did not want to do it, and now you do want to do it. With such a hot and cold temper, are you a young mistress?" Wei Wuxian turned to the girl. "Come in." The girl wiped her eyes and her face, and crashed into his body. Her entire soul was slammed inside. Leaning against the coffin, Wei Wuxian slowly slid to the ground. The boys hurried to drag over a pile of straw for him to sit on. Jinling clutched the bell tightly, his thoughts unknown. When the girl had just slammed into him, Wei Wuxian suddenly thought of a problem. The maiden is blind. If I empathize with her, wouldn't I be blind as well and I won't unable to see a thing? The effects would plummet. Oh well, only the ears should work as well. After a few dizzying moments, the soul that had been light felt as though it landed on firm ground. As the girl opened her eyes, Wei Wuxian opened his eyes as well. However, the scene before his eyes wasn't a field of pitch black, but instead a clear landscape with bright colors. He could see. Seemingly, at the time of this piece of memory, she wasn't blind yet. During empathy, the scenes shown to Wei Wuxian would be segments of her memory with the strongest emotions and that she most wanted to express to other people. He could simply watch quietly and feel what she felt. At the moment, the two of them shared the same senses. The girl's eyes were his eyes, the girl's mouth was his mouth. Sitting by a brook, the girl groomed herself in front of the water. Although her clothes were tattered, she still needed the most basic level of cleanliness. Tapping a tempo with the tip of her foot, she hummed as she fixed her hair, as though she wasn't satisfied no matter how she fixed it. Wei Wuxian could feel a thin, wooden hairpin poking around in her hair. Suddenly, she looked down at her reflection in the water. Wei Wuxian's viewpoint lowered as well. A young maiden with an oval face and a sharp chin was mirrored against the water of the brook. There were no pupils within the maiden's eyes, only a field of white. Wei Wuxian wondered, this is clearly the look of someone who's blind, but right now I can see, can't I? After the girl fastened her hair, she dusted her clothes and leapt up. Grabbing the bamboo pole by her feet, she skipped along the road. She swung her pole as she walked, ceaselessly swatting at the branches above her head, knocking at the rocks that she passed, scaring the grasshoppers within the bushes. As soon as somebody approached from afar, she immediately stopped skipping. Properly holding onto her pole, she knocked on the ground as she slowly wandered forward, appearing quite wary. The group that came was a few villager women. Seeing her situation, they all moved out of her way and whispered to one another. The girl nodded with hurry, "Thank you, thank you." One of the women seemed as though she felt sorry for her. Lifting the white cloth that covered her basket, she took out a steamed bun and gave it to her. "Sister, be careful. Are you hungry? Take this and eat it." The girl ate and replied thankfully, "How can I take it?" I. The woman shoved the bun into her hand. "Take it." She finally took it. Sister, a king is very thankful of you. So the girl's name was A King. Bidding the villager women farewell, A King finished the bun in just a few bites, and continued to skip along, hopping 3 inches high each time. Skipping with her inside of her body, Wei Wuxian's head spun from dizziness. He thought to himself, the maiden is so full of energy. Now I understand. She's pretending to be blind. She was probably born with those white eyes. Although she looks blind, she can actually see, so she's pretending to be blind with her eyes, tricking people into feeling sorry for her. Being a girl who roamed the streets alone, if she pretended to be blind, people would naturally think that she really couldn't see and lower their guard. However, in reality, she could see everything. This allowed her to adjust according to the circumstances and was indeed a clever method of self-protection. Despite this, A King's soul was truly blind, which meant that she did lose her sight before she died. Then, how did she go from pretending to be blind to being actually blind? Was it that she saw things she shouldn't have seen? When nobody was around, A King skipped along. When people were around, A King shrunk down and pretended to be blind. Pausing now and then, she arrived at a marketplace. Since it was bustling with people, of course she'd show off her skills. Performing to the fullest, she knocked on the ground with her bamboo pole, her act as believable as ever. Slowly walking through the crowd, she suddenly ran into a middle-aged man dressed in bright, expensive-looking clothes. She pretended as though she was frightened. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I can't see. I'm sorry. She couldn't see? She clearly rushed right into the man. Having collided with someone, the man turned angrily around, as if he wanted to curse at whoever was in front of him. However, seeing that it was not only a blind person, but also a young maiden who looked rather pretty, if he slapped her face in the streets, he'd definitely be criticized by the passerby. He could only scold, "Watch where you're going." A King continued to apologize. As he was about to leave, he still wasn't satisfied, and squeezed A King's buttocks with his right hand. Since they felt the same things, it was as though the squeeze landed on Wei Wuxian's body. Instantaneously, Wei Wuxian felt as if a blanket of goosebumps climbed over his heart. He wanted no less than to slam the man into the ground. A King shrunk herself into a ball as if she was deeply frightened. However, after the man was some distance away, she tapped her way into an obscure alleyway, and immediately spat on the ground. Fishing out a money pouch, she poured the contents out, counted them, then spat again. Those lousy men, all of them are like this. Dressed as if they really are something, but they don't have any coins. You can't even shake a penny out of them. Wei Wuxian was halfway between frowning and bursting into laughter. A King was still young, possibly younger than 15 years old, but she was already quite adept at cursing, and even more adept at snatching people's money. He reminisced, "If you stole my money, you wouldn't have cursed in such a way. Back then, I used to be wealthy as well." Just as he was sighing about how he became so poor, A King had already found her next target. Acting as a blind person, she walked out of the alleyway, wandered on the streets for a while, and did the same thing. With an ah, she drove herself into a white-robed cultivator, then apologized, I'm sorry, I can't see. I'm sorry." Wei Wuxian silently shook his head. This young beauty didn't even change her lines. Having been jolted by her, the person turned around. He helped her steady herself first. I'm fine. Maiden, you can't see either? The person was fairly young. His cultivation robes were simple yet clean, and he carried a sword wrapped in white cloth on his back. The lower half of his face was quite handsome, although somewhat emaciated. On the other hand, the upper half of his face was covered with bandages about 4 fingers wide. A soft tinge of blood vaguely seeped from beneath the bandages. In Chapter The Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. Chapter 38. Grasses, Part 7. A King seemed to have paused shortly before answering, "Why yes." Zhou Shengchen, then, walk a bit slower. Don't be so fast. You wouldn't want to bump into someone again, would you? He didn't mention at all that he himself couldn't see either. Holding A King's hand, he led her to the side of the road. Walk here. There are less people. Both his words and his actions were gentle yet careful. A King reached out with hesitation, but in the end, she still snatched away the money pouch that hung by his waist. Brother, A King is very thankful of you. Zhou Shangchen, not brother. It's Daozhang. A King blinked, but you're both Daozhang and brother. Zhou Shangchen smiled, then, since you call me brother, why don't you give back brother's pouch? No matter how quick a street roamer like A King was, they wouldn't be able to fool the senses of a cultivator. Startled, she took her pole and sprinted as fast as she could. Yet, not having run very far, Zhou Shangchen grabbed the back of her collar with one hand and brought her back. As I've already said, you shouldn't run so fast. What if you bump into someone again? A King struggled to escape his grasp. With a twitch of her lips, her upper teeth bit down on her lower lip. Wei Wuxian understood at once. Oh no, she's gonna shout molester. Suddenly, a middle-aged man hurried out of a street corner. As he saw A King, his eyes lit up at once. He stormed over as he cursed, "You little bitch! I finally caught you. Give back my money." Simply cursing wasn't enough to relieve his anger. With a wave of his arm, his hand swung toward her face. A King immediately looked down and closed her eyes. Yet, before the slap landed on her cheek, it was stopped halfway through. Zhou Shangchen, sir, please calm down for a moment. It's quite an impolite way to treat a young maiden, don't you think? A King secretly peeked from behind her eyelids. The middle-aged man clearly used a lot of strength, yet his hand was held by Zhou Shangchen's in a seemingly light way, unable to move an inch. Although he was nervous, he accused stubbornly, "What is a blind guy like you doing here? Saving the damsel in distress? So the little bitch is your lover? Did you know that she's a thief? She stole my money. If you protect her, then you're also a thief." With him in one hand and A King in the other, Zhou Shangchen turned around. "Give the man his money back." A King fumbled out the small amount of money and passed it over. Zhou Shangchen let go of the man, who counted the money. Everything was still there. Glancing at the blind cultivator again, the man knew that he'd be difficult to deal with, so he trudged awkwardly away. "Zhou Shangchen, you really are too bold. How do you dare steal things even when you're blind?" A King leapt up 3 inches high. "He touched me. He pinched my butt, and it hurt so much, so what's wrong with me taking some of his money? There's only so little inside of such a big pouch, and he's being a bully about it. He's gonna die flat broke." Wei Wuxian disagreed. "You clearly had stealing intentions and bumped into him first, but now you're saying it like he wronged you first. What a fraud argument." Zhou Shangchen shook his head. "Such being the case, you really should have known better than to provoke him. Today, if nobody was here, the matter wouldn't have been solved with a mere slap. Maiden, take care." After he finished, he turned to the opposite direction and left. Wei Wuxian observed, "He didn't ask for his money pouch back. This shushu of mine is gentle towards women as well." Holding the money pouch that she stole, A King stood and stared blankly for a few seconds. Suddenly, she stuffed it into her lapel, chased over with her pole, and crashed right onto Zhou Shangchen's back. Zhou Shangchen could only help steady her again. "Is there anything else?" "A King, I still have your money pouch." "Zhou Shangchen, it's yours now. There's not much inside, anyways. Before you spend all of it, be sure not to steal anything else." "A King, I heard the filthy man curse. So you're blind too?" Hearing the second sentence, Zhou Shangchen's expression faltered at once. His smile disappeared as well. The bold, innocent remarks of children were often the cruelest. Children didn't know anything. Precisely because they didn't know anything, they hurt people's feelings in the most direct of ways. Under the bandages wrapped around Zhou Shangchen's eyes, a smear of red grew darker and darker, almost seeping through the cloth. He raised his hand for it to hover over his eyes, while his arm trembled slightly. The pain and injury that came with gouging out one's eyes were not that easy to heal. However, A King simply thought that he was feeling dizzy. She beamed, "Then let me follow you." Zhou Shangqian managed to smile. "Why would you want to follow me? To become a cultivator?" "A King, you're tall and blind, and I'm small and blind. If we travel together, we can care for each other. My parents are gone and there's nowhere I can stay. I'll follow anyone to anywhere." Being as clever as she was afraid that Zhou Shangqian would refuse her, so she took advantage of his agreeable nature and threatened, "I spend money really quickly. If you refuse to take me with you, the money will be gone at once, and I'll have to go steal and trick people again. And then somebody will slap me hard and I'll fall down and I won't even be able to find my way. Poor me." Zhou Shangqian laughed. "Someone as clever as you should be able to fool others so that they can't find their way. Who in the world can do the same to you?" After watching for a while, Wei Wuxian found something interesting. Now that he had seen Zhou Shangqian himself, he discovered that, in comparison to the real one, Zhu Yang's imitation really was precise. Aside from his face, all of the details were true to the real Zhou Shangqian. If someone told him so, he could have even believed that Zhou Shangqian had possessed Zhu Yang's body. Pleading, pestering, and pretending that she was pitiful, A King clung to Zhou Shangqian the whole way. Zhou Shangqian warned her quite a couple of times that it'd be dangerous if she followed him, but A King never listened. She wasn't even scared after Zhou Shangqian exorcised an old cattle that had gained consciousness when they passed a certain village. She still kept on calling him Diazhang and stuck to him as if she was syrup, never going more than 3 meters away from him. As she followed him, possibly deciding that A King was quick-witted, brave, and never a hindrance, all the while being a young, blind maiden with nowhere to go, Zhou Shangqian finally gave tacit permission to her staying with him. Wei Wuxian originally thought that Zhou Shangqian must have had a destination. However, as a few pieces of memory passed, judging from the climates and dialects, the places that they went couldn't at all form a distinct route. He didn't seem like he was going anywhere, but rather night hunting by chance. He went to wherever people mentioned peculiar things were happening. Wei Wuxian guessed, maybe the Yuancheng clan's case had too big of a blow on him. He didn't want to be among the clans and sects anymore, but he couldn't give up on his aspirations, so he chose to night hunt as he wandered around, solving as many problems as he could. At the moment, Zhou Shangqian and A King were walking along a long, flat road with weeds and grasses of waist height growing on both sides of it. Suddenly, A King cried out with an awe. Zhou Shangqian immediately asked, "What's wrong?" A King, "Ugh! Nothing. My ankle twisted." Wei Wuxian could clearly see that it wasn't because her ankle twisted at all. She was walking as fine as ever. If not for that, she was pretending to be blind in front of Zhou Shangqian so that he couldn't come up with any reasons to shoo her away. She could hop up to the heavens as she walked. A King's exclamation was because as she glanced around, she suddenly saw a black figure lying among the bushes of weeds. Although she didn't know whether he was dead or alive, most likely thinking that it'd be a drag either way, she obviously didn't want Zhou Shangqian to find the person. She urged him, let's go. Let's rest a bit at that whatever city that's ahead. I'm so tired." "Zhou Shangqian, didn't you twist your ankle? Do you want me to carry you?" A King was ecstatic, knocking loudly on the ground with her bamboo pole. "Yes. Smiling, Zhou Shangqian turned around with his back to her and kneeled down with one leg. Just as A King was about to throw herself over, Zhou Shangqian suddenly stopped her. With a serious expression, he stood up. "Something smells like blood." A King can also smell a faint hint of blood. Amid the night wind, it was indeed discernible at times. She bluffed, "Really? Why can't I smell it? Are any families around the area killing livestock?" Just as she finished speaking, as if heaven wanted to go against her wishes, the person in the bushes coughed. Even though the sound was almost imperceptible, it couldn't escape Zhou Shangqian's ears. He immediately found the direction, stepped into the bushes, and squatted down beside the person. Due to how Zhou Shangqian discovered the person anyway, A King stomped on the ground, then pretended to find her way over. What happened? Zhou Shangqian was feeling the person's pulse. Someone is lying here. A King, so that's why the smell of blood is so strong. Are they dead? Should we make a ditch and bury them? Of course, a dead person was less of a hassle than a living one, so A King couldn't wait for the person to die. However, Zhou Shangqian replied, not yet. He's just badly injured. After giving it some thought, he gently carried the person onto his back. Seeing that a filthy, bloodstained man took the position where she would have been and that Zhou Shangqian wouldn't be able to carry her to the city anymore, A King pouted and poked a few deep holes on the ground with her pole. Yet, she knew that Zhou Shangqian wouldn't not help the person, so complaining wouldn't work anyway. They went back onto the road and continued walking. The more they walked, the stronger Wei Wuxian's sense of familiarity grew. He suddenly recalled, isn't this the road that lands on and I used to get to Yi City? Sure enough, Yi City could be seen looming at the end of the road. As of this time, the city gates weren't as run down. The tower was still in fair condition and there weren't any scribbles on the walls. Entering the city, the fog was somewhat denser, but compared to the unnatural density in later times, it was not a hindrance at all. On the sides of the road, lights and even human conversations leaked from the doors and windows of houses. Although it was an obscure place, it had some liveliness to it. Carrying a person with severe injuries and drenched in blood on his back, Zhou Shangqian definitely knew that no shops would let someone like him inside. Thus, he didn't search for places to rest, but instead directly asked a night watchman who walked by if there were any idle coffin homes in the city. The watchman told him, there's one over there. The guy who guarded it passed away last month. There's currently nobody there. Seeing that Zhou Shangqian was blind and might have difficulties finding the way, he decided to lead them over. This was precisely the coffin home where Zhou Shangqian's corpse was put after he had died. They thanked the watchman, and Zhou Shangqian carried the injured person into the chamber on the right. The room wasn't large, but wasn't too small either. Including a low bed by the wall, the room had all of the necessities. He carefully laid the person onto the bed. Taking an elixir from his Qiankun pouch, he pushed it through the person's clenched teeth. A King felt around in the room for a while before she beamed, there are so many things here. Here's a basin. Zhou Shangqian, is there a stove? There is. Zhou Shangqian, A King, why don't you try to boil some water? Be careful and don't hurt yourself. A King pouted some more and got to work. Zhou Shangqian touched the person's forehead, then took out another elixir and fed it to him. Wei Wuxian really wanted to take a good look at the person's face, but A King was clearly not interested in him. She was rather annoyed and refused to spare him a single glimpse. After the water had been boiled, Zhou Shangqian slowly wiped off the blood on his face. Out of curiosity, A King gave him a glance, and made a soundless huh. Now that the person's face had been cleaned, she could see that his looks were actually quite decent. As Wei Wuxian saw the face, his heart immediately sunk. Just as he had expected, it was Zhu Yang. He sighed in silence, enemies really can't avoid each other, can they? Zhou Shangqian, you really are hopelessly unlucky. At this point in time, with a childish charm, Zhu Yang looked nothing more than a boy. However, who could have known that a boy like him whose canine teeth showed when he smiled was a maniac who wiped out entire clans? Counting the years, this was probably after Zhen Guangyao became the chief cultivator. In such a difficult situation, Zhu Yang had probably just escaped Zhen Guangyao's elimination. Since he couldn't kill him, Zhen Guangyao naturally didn't want to let anything out. Or, maybe because he believed that he wouldn't be able to live, he told the public that Zhu Yang had already been eliminated. However, villains always tended to outlast heroes. On the brink of dying, he was saved by his old rival Shang Chen. It was unfortunate that Zhou Shangqian wasn't cautious to the point of feeling and examining his face. By accident, he had saved his enemy, the one who made his life this way. Although A King could see, since she wasn't the cultivator, she didn't know of Zhu Yang, much less the immense hatred between the two of them. She didn't even know what Zhou Shangqian's name was. Wei Wuxian sighed again. Zhou Shangqian couldn't be any more unlucky. It was as though all of the ominous energy in this world had tainted him. Suddenly, Zhu Yang frowned. Zhou Shangqian was in the middle of inspecting and bandaging his wounds. Sensing that Zhu Yang was about to wake up, he spoke, "Don't move." Someone like Zhu Yang who had done countless bad deeds in their life would naturally be more alert than ordinary people. Hearing this voice, his eyes sprang open and he sat up at once. Tumbling to the corner of the room, he glared at Zhou Shangqian with a fierce expression and a careful posture. His eyes resembled those of a beast who had been trapped, not at all concealing the malice and cruelty within them. Watching the scene, a king's scalp tingled. The sensation also passed on to Wei Wuxian's head, who shouted silently, "Talk." Zhou Shangqian definitely wouldn't have forgotten Zhu Yang's voice. "Zhu Yang, what?" As soon as he spoke, Wei Wuxian knew that there was no hope. Even after he spoke, Zhou Shangqian wouldn't be able to discover who he was. Zhu Yang's throat was injured as well. After coughing up a large quantity of blood, his voice was so hoarse that nobody could tell they were the same person. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Zhou Shangqian assured, "I told you not to move. Your wounds are going to open. Don't worry. Since I saved you, of course I won't hurt you." Zhu Yang was quick at adjusting to sudden changes of situation. He immediately inferred that Zhou Shangqian most likely didn't recognize him. With a roll of his eyes, he coughed, "Who are you?" A king interrupted, "If you have eyes, can't you see for yourself? He's a roaming cultivator. He went to such lengths to carry you back and saved you and even gave you magical elixirs, yet you're so mean." Zhu Yang turned to her at once. He spoke in a cold voice, "You're blind?" Wei Wuxian was alarmed. The little delinquent was both crafty and vigilant. Even though a king had a pair of white eyes, he didn't let down his guard. Not passing any points of suspicion, he immediately caught a king's slip of the tongue. Zhu Yang had only spoken 4 words. With only these 4 words, it was impossible to determine if he was mean or not, unless a king had seen his expression. The good thing was that a king grew up lying. She replied on the spot, "Do you discriminate against blind people? Well, a blind person saved you. Or else, nobody would care even if you rotted on the side of the road. The first words you said weren't even to thank Daozhang. How rude. And you called me blind in such a tone. HMPH. What's wrong with being blind?" She successfully switched the topic and the point of the conversation. As a king muttered non-stop in an unyielding yet dejected manner, Zhou Shangqian immediately went over to comfort her. In the corner, Zhu Yang rolled his eyes. Zhou Shangqian turned to him again, "Don't sit by the wall. I didn't bandage the wound on your leg yet. Come here." With an indifferent expression, Zhu Yang continued to think. Zhou Shangqian added, "If it's not treated soon, you might end up crippled." Hearing this, Zhu Yang decisively made his choice. Wei Wuxian could speculate what he was thinking. With a body covered in severe wounds, he couldn't go anywhere if nobody helped treat him. Since Zhou Shangqian was such an idiot that he placed himself right at his disposal, why not accept the help? Thus, he changed his expression at once. In a voice filled with gratitude, he replied, "Then, thank you, Daozhang." Having seen Zhu Yang's skill of changing from merciless to affectionate within fractions of a second, Wei Wuxian was truly worried for the 2 blind ones, both real and fake, in the room, but especially for a king. She could see everything. If Zhu Yang discovered this, to prevent the secret from leaking out, she'd definitely die. Although he knew that, in the end, a king probably died in Zhu Yang's hands anyway, Wei Wuxian still felt anxious since he'd be going through the same experience. All of a sudden, he noticed that Zhu Yang had been discreetly preventing Zhou Shangqian from touching his left hand. Taking a closer look at it, he found that the little finger of Zhu Yang's left hand was severed. From where it cut off, it could be seen that it wasn't a new wound. Back then, Zhou Shangqian definitely knew that Zhu Yang only had 9 fingers. So this was why Zhu Yang wore a black glove on his left hand when he was putting up his act. Zhou Shangqian was rather dedicated to helping him. After applying medicine to his wound, he bandaged it in a remarkably neat manner. It's finished, but it's best if you don't move, or else your bones will dislocate again. Zhu Yang had already ascertained that Zhou Shangqian was so gullible that he didn't recognize him. Although he was covered in blood and surrounded by other messes, the lazy grin appeared on his face again. Daozhang, so you aren't going to ask who I am? Why I was injured so badly? If someone else were at his position, they would have carefully avoided the topic so that they didn't reveal details that would expose their identity. He, on the other hand, deliberately did the exact opposite. Turning to clean the medical kit and bandages, Zhou Shangqian softly replied, "If you won't say it, then why should I ask? I just happened to have seen you and decided to lend a hand. It's nothing difficult for me, anyways. After your injuries heal, we'd go our separate ways. If I were you, there'd also be a lot of things that I don't want others to ask about." Wei Wuxian commented, even as Zhou Shangqian asked, the little delinquent would probably make up a seamless explanation and fool him around. It was natural for people to have complicated pasts. Zhou Shangqian only avoided inquiring too much out of respect. Yet, it made it convenient for Zhu Yang to use his respect. Wei Wuxian was sure that he was not only going to get Zhou Shangqian to heal all his wounds, after he recovered, he definitely wouldn't let them go their separate ways either. Zhu Yang rested in the bedroom of the Coffin Home's guard, while Zhou Shangqian went to the main hall. Opening up a new coffin, he picked up some of the straws on the ground and thickly spread them over the bottom of the coffin. He turned to A King, "The person inside is injured, so let's let him have the bed. Would you mind making do with this? I put straws on the bottom, so it shouldn't be too cold." A King had been roaming in the streets ever since she was young. Having lived alongside wind and hunger, there was nowhere she hadn't slept. She replied nonchalantly, "Not at all. It's good enough that I have somewhere to sleep. It won't be cold. Don't take off your coat for me again." Zhou Shangqian stroked the top of her head. With both his sword and horsetail whisk on his back, he walked outside again. To ensure safety, Zhou Shangqian never let her follow when he was on night hunts. After crawling into the coffin and lying for a while, she heard Zhu Yang call her from the other room, "Little blind, come over." A King poked her head out, "What?" "Zhu Yang, do you want candy?" The end of A King's tongue felt sour, as though she really wanted candy. Despite this, she still refused. "I'm not eating it. I'm not going." Zhu Yang threatened sweetly, "Are you sure you're not eating it? Are you too scared of coming? But, did you think that I actually can't move? That if you don't come, I'm not going to go over and find you?" Hearing the strange tone of his words, A King shuddered. She imagined the malicious grin suddenly appear on top of the coffin, and felt that it was even creepier. With some hesitation, she finally picked up her pole and slowly tapped her way to the room's door. Before she could speak, a small object flew straight at her. Wei Wuxian instinctively wanted to dodge, worried that it was some sort of weapon. Of course, he couldn't control this body. Immediately afterward, he finally realized, it's a trap. Zhu Yang was testing A King. If she was truly blind, she wouldn't be able to avoid it. As both a quick-witted person and someone who pretended to be blind throughout the year, A King didn't dodge at all. She didn't even blink as she saw the object rush toward her. Instead, she let it hit her chest, then jumped back and fumed, "Hey! What did you throw at me?" With A King having passed the test, Zhu Yang replied, "It's candy, for you. I forgot that you're blind and can't catch. It landed by your feet." A King humphed and squatted down. Searching around as if she really were blind, she found a piece of candy. She had never eaten something like this before. She gulped, wiped it, then put it into her mouth, happily crunching it with her teeth. Zhu Yang lay on his side with one hand holding his chin, and asked, "Is it good, Little Blind?" "A King, I have a name. I'm not called Little Blind." "Zhu Yang, you didn't tell me your name, so I could only call you this." A King had always told her name only to people who were nice to her, but she didn't like the way Zhu Yang said it, so she told him, "Listen up. My name is A King. Don't keep on calling me Little Blind and Little Blind." After she said it, she felt that her voice was somewhat harsh. Afraid that she'd anger the person, she immediately started another topic. "You're such a strange person. You're covered in blood and this injured, but you have candy with you." Zhu Yang grinned. "When I was young, I really liked candy, but I couldn't get them no matter what, and I could only watch people eat. So, I've always thought that if I become wealthier one day, I'd carry an infinite amount of candy with me." A King just so happened to have finished the candy that he gave her. Licking her lips, she wanted more. Her desire for candy outweighed her fear of the person in front of her. "Then do you have any more?" Zhu Yang laughed. "Of course I do. I'll give you more if you come over here." A King stood up and, with her bamboo pole, she walked toward him. Yet, when she was halfway there, Zhu Yang started to look at her in an eerie way, his smile unchanged. Without making a sound, he pulled a sharp-edged sword out of his sleeve. It was Jia Yang's eye. He pointed the tip of the sword toward A King. If she walked just a few more steps forward, she'd be impaled by the sword. However, if A King hesitated for the slightest moment, the fact that she wasn't actually blind would be revealed. Sharing the same senses as A King, Wei Wuxian also felt the pins and needles pricking his scalp. Despite this, the young maiden bravely searched her way forward in a calm, ordinary manner. When the tip of the sword was half an inch away from her stomach, Zhu Yang took it away and put it back into his sleeve. Exchanging it with 2 pieces of candy, he gave one to A King and tossed the other one into his own mouth. He asked, "A King, where's that Daozhang of yours gone to in the middle of the night?" A King licked and munched on the candy. "I think he went hunting." Zhu Yang tittered. "Hunting? More like night hunting." A King, "Oh really? The two are pretty much the same. What's the difference?" "It's just helping other people fight ghosts and beasts without receiving any money." Wei Wuxian was truly amazed by how clever she was. It wasn't that A King couldn't remember what Zhou Shangqian said to her. In fact, she remembered it better than anyone. She said night hunting on purpose. Since Zhu Yang corrected her, in a way, he confirmed that he was also a cultivator. Zhu Yang's test failed and was instead tested by her. The maiden was only so young, yet she already had such tactics. Although Zhu Yang looked scornful, his voice sounded confused. "He's blind already. How can he night hunt?" A King raged. "You're at it again. What's wrong with being blind? Even if Daozhang's blind, he's still really cool. His sword's like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One word, fast." As she was prancing around, Zhu Yang suddenly asked, "You can't see, so how do you know his sword is fast?" The opponent was quick, but her defense was quicker. A King replied in an outraged voice, "It's fast because I say so. Daozhang's sword must be fast. It's true that I can't see, but can't I listen? Just what are you trying to say? Do you discriminate against blind people like us?" She behaved exactly like a naive girl who was bragging about the person she admired. It sounded as natural as can be. Now that she passed all 3 of his tests, Zhu Yang's expression finally relaxed. It was likely that he finally believed that A King was indeed blind. However, A King, on the other hand, grew extremely wary toward Zhu Yang. The next day, Zhou Shangqian found some wood, straw, and tiles for repairing the roof. As soon as he came inside, A King secretly dragged him out again, whispering on about how this person was suspicious and that he definitely wasn't a good person, judging from him hiding secrets even though they were both cultivators. Unfortunately, she thought that the broken little finger was a trivial matter, so she didn't mention the most fatal characteristic. Zhou Shangqian went about comforting her. "You've already eaten his candy, so you should stop chasing him away. Of course he'll go after his wounds have healed. Nobody would be willing to stay with us inside this coffin home." This was indeed the truth. There was only a single bed inside such a shack. It was lucky for them that there was no wind or rain, or else the roof would have created a great problem. Nobody would want to live here. Just as A King was about to continue her complaint of Zhu Yang, the certain someone's voice came from behind them. Are you talking about me? To A King's surprise, he got off the bed again. However, she wasn't afraid of being found out at all. We're talking about you? Don't flatter yourself. Picking up her bamboo pole, she went inside, sneaked behind the window, and continued to eavesdrop. Outside of the coffin home, Zhou Shangqian turned to Zhu Yang. Your wounds haven't healed yet, and you're walking around already. Are you sure you'll fine? Zhu Yang, it'll heal faster if I walk around. And it's not that both of my legs are broken or anything. I'm used to injuries like these. I grew up beaten by others. Zhou Shangqian seemed as though he didn't know what to say in response, whether he should comfort him or take it as a joke. After a pause, he replied, Oh. Zhu Yang continued, Daozhang, are the things that you brought here gonna be for repairing the roof? Zhou Shangqian, yes. I'll most likely stay here for a temporary while. The broken roof won't be beneficial to A King or to your injuries. Zhu Yang, should I help? Zhou Shangqian thanked him, I'll be fine. Zhu Yang, Daozhang, do you know how to do it? Zhou Shangqian laughed and shook his head, I'm sorry, but I really haven't tried to do such a thing before. And so, the two of them started to repair the roof together. One of them worked, the other one gave directions. Zhu Yang was quite eloquent with words and was especially good at making witty remarks. His humor was accompanied by a presumptuous tone common to street markets. In the past, Zhou Shangqian most likely had very rare contact with this type of people. Easily amused, he'd start laughing after just a few sentences. Hearing how cheerful their conversations were, A King moved her lips in silence. After careful scrutiny, it seemed to have sounded like let me kill you damn thing. Wei Wuxian felt the same as A King. Zhu Yang's severe injuries that had almost taken his life were partly due to Zhou Shangqian. The two had a relationship of absolute hatred. In his heart, he was probably hoping for Zhou Shangqian to die in the most gruesome way possible, yet he could still converse with him in such a light-hearted manner. If the one hiding behind the window right now was Wei Wuxian himself, he would have killed Zhu Yang regardless of the consequences to avoid later trouble. However, it wasn't his own body. And, even if A King wanted to, she wasn't capable of killing him. After about a month, under Zhou Shangqian's meticulous care, Zhu Yang's wounds had mostly healed. Aside from how he limped slightly when he walked, nothing else posed any inconvenience. Despite this, he still hadn't mentioned anything about leaving. He continued to live in this cramped coffin home with the two others. Wei Wuxian had no idea what he was scheming of. Today, after putting A King to sleep, Zhou Shangqian was about to leave and night hunt again when Zhu Yang's voice suddenly came, Daozhang, why don't you take me with you tonight? His throat injury should have healed already as well. However, he purposely avoided using his original voice and disguised it in another tone. Zhou Shangqian laughed, of course not. If you talk, I start laughing, and if I laugh, my sword won't be steady anymore. Zhu Yang replied in a piteous way, then I won't talk. I'll carry your sword and help you. Please don't give me the cold shoulder. He had always been a master at behaving as though he was a spoiled child. When talking to people older than him, he sounded like a younger brother. And, since Zhou Shangqian had probably cared for his Shidi and Shimai when he was a disciple of Baoshan Sanren, he naturally saw Zhu Yang as junior to him. Zhu Yang was a cultivator as well, so Zhou Shangqian gladly agreed to the request. Wei Wuxian thought, Zhu Yang definitely won't be so nice that he wants to help Zhou Shangqian night hunt. If A King doesn't go, she'll miss something important for sure. A King was indeed clever. She also figured that Zhu Yang probably didn't have good intentions. After the two left, she jumped out of the coffin and followed them from afar. The distance between them was a bit too far, since she was scared that she'd be discovered, and she ended up losing sight of them. Luckily, when Zhou Shangqian was washing the vegetables earlier, he mentioned that a small village nearby was plagued by walking corpses and told the two of them to refrain from running around. A King could still remember the place. Rushing over, she arrived soon afterward. She slipped into a dog hole on the bottom of the village's fence, hid behind one of the houses, and sneakily peeked out. Wei Wuxian wasn't sure if A King understood what was happening, but he felt a sudden chill within his heart. With his hands folded in front of him, Zhu Yang stood on the side of the road, smiling with his head tilted. Zhou Shangqian stood on the opposite side. Calmly unsheathing his sword, Shuangwu flashed its silver sword glare before it pierced through a villager's heart. The villager was still alive. In Chapter